Welcome to Conveyancing Matters with Lorraine and Stu. Join us for a chat about all things property.
Hey Stu, welcome to Conveyancing Matters. What we're going to tell everybody about today is why we are doing this, what we're about, a little bit about us. But as Conveyancing Matters was your big idea first. Come on, mate. Tell us what it's all about.
Well, it was really just a medium to get information out there about conveyancing and about the home moving process, so more people had more access to more information.
Yeah, now that's the proper answer. Now, come on, give us the real answer, Stu. We're both property experts. Loads of the stuff that's out there really gets on our nerves. So come on, what are we really hoping to do as well?
Well, basically, just put a few people in their place, dispel a few rumours, and hopefully get more business for the two of us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, certainly what I want to try and do with Conveyancing Matters, Stu, is, as you say, to kind of put the record straight, to be the voice of conveyancers. I think there's lots of people out there who want to squash conveyancers and have only got negative things to say about conveyancers. I mean, what we do is an extremely difficult job. So I'd quite like to fight the corner for conveyancers, to be quite honest. But also, I hope that what we're going to do is be of interest as well as to conveyancers and the people we work with, also to other firms, to other people in the property industry, but also to the home selling and buying public. So I hope we're going to have stuff to say to them as well.
Yeah, Lorraine, I think you're completely right. On a deadly serious note, there is a lack of voice, I suppose, from the conveyancing industry. We do come under a hell of a lot of pressure. It's a difficult job. I think sometimes people really forget that we're actually looking after everyone's best interests, trying to make sure that the dream home that they're buying isn't going to turn into a disaster. And that's a point that often gets forgot.
Yeah, you're really right. I mean, I'll tell you one thing that, again, so much gets on my nerves. I've decided I have turned into Terry Wogan because just everything gets on my nerves. And I say, is it me, a lot. But I certainly find, and something I say to the people I teach, is the minute you forget, as a conveyancer, how stressful it is to move house, I don't think you should be doing it. Actually, I don't think you should be doing the job. If you're prepared to leave the office at 4 o'clock on a Friday when you could exchange on something and give people the relaxed weekend of having exchanged, if you're not prepared to do that, genuinely speaking, I don't really think you should be doing the job. So it's that trying to, when you asked me about it, it was actually trying to speak up for conveyancers as much as anything. But also, you know, sometimes we're rubbish. And I do think we need to acknowledge that as well. And frankly, I'm sure we will.
Most definitely. Not only that, I think there's problems within the conveyancing industry, that there's areas that do need reform. There's loads to discuss, but I think the biggest sort of thought that the public and estate agents and other providers within the conveyancing sector and the home moving process, they often think that we're all just sitting there twiddling our thumbs, and they don't realise that the level of due diligence that we have to go through, the hoops we jump through, and so on and so forth. So to get that person into their property, it's no easy matter. And I think some of the things we can discuss over the weeks, hopefully will show people that it's not an easy job. It's a difficult process at the best of times. And at the end of the day, most property lawyers, most of the time, are doing their best to get the best end result for that client.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So come on, Stu, what do you think? Might we invite the odd guest? Do you think we might let someone join the party?
I think as long as they're friendly and don't bite back, then I definitely think the odd guest to come on to add a bit of value, to give the other side of the fence to the argument, so to speak. Yeah, it will definitely help out and make these more interesting.
Yeah, good. Obviously, we're interested enough, Stu, quite frankly.
Well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to blow our own trumpets, but there you go.
I don't want anyone that's too good.
Well, exactly. Or better looking.
Oh, crumbs. I'm gone then. Bye. So come on, Stu, tell me, let's let people know a little bit about us to start with. Why did you end up doing this? Come on. Most people see and say, hey, want to do conveyancing, guys?
Yeah, so when I was at school, I'd always dreamt of doing property law. Obviously not. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And simply, it was one of those things that I virtually fell into. I toyed with the idea of qualifying to be a solicitor. I was more interested in playing football, going fishing, all the more interesting things in life. And I stumbled across a course to become a licensed conveyancer and decided to go down that route.
Oh, okay. Well, what did I do? I did a law degree because I just felt as a woman, I hate to say this, don't want to sound like a woman, but I felt it would be a good degree to have. I thought it would take me in more directions. Certainly when I was doing it, the careers advice was absolutely terrible. So even at uni, it was grim. So kind of a bit like you, I fell into becoming a lawyer sort of slightly by accident. It wasn't a burning ambition. And then, probably the most serious question of all this is, why did we end up becoming conveyancers, Stu? Why did I end up qualifying as a property solicitor? Well, because that was what my training contract offered. I ended up loads of people do this. They don't end up in an area of law because they love it. They end up in an area of law because that's the job that's there for them. And that's exactly what happened to me. So a bit like you, but as far as a slightly different route, I just sort of fell into it by accident, really. And probably we found out now, are you any good at talking to people? What do you think, Stu?
I'd like to think so. I'm really similar to yourself. When I think it was 17, 18, I had no idea really what I wanted to do. I hadn't fully committed to the law or anything like that. And as you do when you're that age, and bear in mind to any youngsters that might be listening or watching that, this is sort of 23 years ago, I wrote to every single law firm in Essex, basically putting myself forward, asking whether they had any vacancies, training positions. And out of the hundreds, I must have wrote to a couple of hundred, one replied. That one replied, went in for an interview, and it sort of fell into place from there. So there was no kind of grand design, no real plan. It just sort of naturally happened. And sort of 23 years later, I am where I am, kind of thing.
I do want to take it from that, Stu, that you managed to just sort of talk your way into the job, because that's exactly how I got into my degree.
Exactly what happened. Bluff my way, as in most things in life that I did, bluff my way through it. Talked a good talk, made out that, what I wanted to do. And at that stage, I had no idea. But I must say that once I got the job and started to sort of work, within a conveyancing department, looking at files, looking at sort of things from a legal sort of standpoint, and then sort of, relaying that to a practical point, I actually started to enjoy it. And I think with conveyancing and with property law, it's one of those areas, isn't it, that people are looking forward to something. It's not like other areas of law where they're looking back, they've got a dispute or a matrimonial issue, litigation, matrimonial, criminal. It's something bad that's happened in the past, isn't it? Whereas with conveyancing, I can't think of any other areas of law where it's something good that's going to happen in the future, or fingers crossed.
Well, I think that's interesting though, Stu, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, though, most people still would prefer not to instruct a lawyer for anything. Most people don't want to interact with lawyers about anything. And lots of people begrudge paying lawyers whatever you're doing for them. And it's a strange irony, isn't it, that actually you've said, we're trying to get people generally into their dream homes. That's what we're aiming for. But it's still after death and divorce, the old cliche, the third most stressful thing that people do. And I think probably what, hopefully we're going to do on Conveyancing Matters, as you say, over the weeks and months, is kind of unpick and kind of talk about some of those stresses, recognise some of those stresses, and maybe hopefully, suggest a few solutions. Because I have to say, one of the things that really gets on my nerves, and I've realised this is probably just going to be a forum where I just spend the whole time moaning about things that get on my nerves, but is actually people are really willing to criticise, but actually very few people are prepared to either put their heads above the parapet or try and come up with a workable solution. Lots of people can say, oh, well, that would work. Oh, why don't you do this? Well, actually, I don't do this because I'm busy trying to do everything else. And I do think, therefore, trying to, suggest solutions, suggest some quick wins, help practitioners and clients really, is one of the things I hope that we can bring to the sort of conveyancing party, really, I must say.
Yeah, well, hopefully people can get value from it, whether it be, a client that's in the middle of a home buying process or looking to move, or whether it be other lawyers that, are looking for ideas, starting up, seasoned experts. I always like to think that, we can learn from other people. And, whenever anybody new joins my practice, one of the first things I say to them is that there must be things that you did where you came from that are, a better process than what we currently do. And if that's the case, you must let me know, because, at the end of the day, like any business, we just want to improve. We want to offer a better service to our clients, and hopefully if we can get some points across, it will help not only people moving, but law firms in general as well.
Yeah, you see, that's really interesting though, Stu, because that's not an attitude lots of law firms have. Again, possibly due to the constraints within which they're working, I might say, but lots of firms don't want to embrace change. And I feel perfectly able to say it from the position as one, that solicitors are some of the worst managers that I've ever come across. And as I say, I feel I can say that from that position, because people don't go into the law to manage people. They just end up doing it the further up the food chain I get. And some of the rudest, most unpleasant, most least responsive people I've ever come across have been solicitors. Again, it's interesting to try to, again, sort of suggest solutions, suggest ways forward, and try and sort of break down those barriers a bit, really. I'm quite happy for people to disagree. If someone wants to tell us we're talking a load of old cobblers, I'd absolutely welcome the debate. If anybody wants to come on and have a chat with us and challenge us, I'd welcome the discussion, because I think that's all quite healthy and positive, really. But as I say, I have to say, Stu, the sort of how can we improve because you've joined us? I've got to say, mate, you're in a bit of a minority there. it's probably the case.
But sometimes I think one thing that people don't understand is the lawyer's perspective, and there are times and there are things that we maybe can't improve on. People forget we have to do things in accordance with the Law Society's protocol. That's how our conveyancing transactions run. There are certain times where things can't be improved upon, or things can't happen. You can't run a law firm and look after the financials if you're doing X, Y, Z. There are reasons why we can't do things the way that the general public or estate agents or mortgage advisors, whatever, may think. So I won't be here just to champion change, and I won't be here just to sort of sit on the fence and go along with it. There are times when we have to do things in a certain way. Our regulation suggests that we have to do things in a certain way, and there are reasons why we can't. The weird thing is, it would massively suit us, wouldn't it, to get transactions through as quickly as possible. It would massively suit us not to raise inquiries. We do this to protect the client, and we have to operate in a certain way within our regulation.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. And of course, it's the sort of stream of regulation. And I think that's actually what everybody forgets, really. The enormous amount of pressure, we are the kind of, the last resort kind of part of the chain, really. And also, I think what people forget to do is that we are largely the only insured part of the chain. And that's all about protection of the public. And frankly, if other people want to, pick up that indemnity insurance tag, then I'm sure lots of us would be very happy for them to do that. But
I've never heard any property lawyer come out there and vocally talk about the levels of money that we have to pay for our insurance.
Oh, it's extraordinary.
It's phenomenal. And the level of regulation that we go through, the insurance that we have, the panels that we sit on for lending purposes, it's all done at the end of the day to protect, our clients. That's what it's there for. It's there to protect, and it's there to protect if there's a problem.
And that, I think, as I say, that's the thing that everybody forgets. It's all about protection of the public. And it's all about this idea that, we've got the knowledge and the public haven't, which sounds a bit patronising, but actually that's the view that our regulators have taken over the years, and quite rightly. The idea is that clients shouldn't suffer loss at the hands of their lawyers. There's, and as you say, therefore, there's loads that goes with that, Stu.
Definitely.
So before we draw this last Conveyancing Matters to a close, or before we draw this first Conveyancing Matters to a close, come on then, Stu, what about something about you that people don't know? Something interesting, something a little bit different?
There's unfortunately there's not much that's interesting. My hobbies include fishing, greyhounds. I used to be one of the biggest owners of greyhounds in the UK. Used to run that alongside the conveyancing, so that's something a bit different that people might not know. I support Tottenham for my sins, so before I get too much abuse, we won't bring that up again. But what about yourself? Come on, there must be something really interesting you can tell us then.
Yeah, do you know, it's so interesting and so deep-seated, Stu. I can't actually think of it. I can honestly say, I just don't
What a
really
load of rubbish, come on.
I just don't do anything. Well, I like going to the cinema, but I've not been able to do that. I like seeing my friends, but I've not been able to do that. And I like going out for meals. But of course you can't tell. So obviously I've not been able to do that, but I have been able to eat biscuits in lockdown instead.
Why not? Why not? Well, today's the first time I've put a shirt on. Must be for 3 months. As you can tell, I'm only sort of, letting the top half be visible because the bottom half is not a pleasant sight.
No, well, I've just become I became a complete lockdown slut, really, because, shirt with a hole in, jeans with holes in, no socks. My feet have just disappeared. I can't get in any shoes now. And I daren't try and put proper clothes on because I'm not going to be able to get into them, really. But, well, I think we should probably close that there. I hope that's given people a little bit of a flavour about you and me, Stu. So hopefully we'll look forward to seeing more people for the next Conveyancing Matters.
Right.